All right, there we go. I think everything should be going now. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let me double check. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I know it's kind of messing up on my end, but let's get this episode of Chicago Bears Weekly started the right way. Ah, okay, welcome into season 9, episode 6 of Chicago Bears Weekly. I know this is a last minute thing. Me going live of my reaction to the just recently dropped Bears schedule. Now, I would have done the live stream earlier. I wish I would have thought of this. I know I've kind of had a mentally rough of past couple of days or so, but nonetheless, it is time for me to give my full thoughts, my full reactions to the Chicago Bears schedule that has just released just now. Probably at, I want to say, at the time of me doing this, probably I want to say the schedules just dropped maybe about an hour and a half ago. The full schedule of the Bears season just dropped. So I kind of want to give my full thoughts on exactly what we should expect from each game. What are my thoughts on the entirety of the schedule? And of course, I'm not going to give my win loss record in this because I just want to talk about the games itself and the schedule and how it goes. I want to give my win loss record later on in this offseason, probably right before training camp is when I'm probably gonna do the full reaction to or the full win loss record of what I think the Bears are gonna be at in 2025. And let's just say we should expect, I'll just give this analysis. We should expect better from this Bears team in 2025 than we did in 2024. I'm not going to give a win loss prediction. Like I said in this particular video, I'm going to do that probably right before training camp, just to give you guys a warning. I'm going to give my win-loss prediction right before training camp. I probably might do a win-loss or a way too early season predictions for the entire league on the channel. That might be dropping at some point, probably next week. So stay tuned for that, along with my wrestling stuff. But this is separate from wrestling. This is about my hometown, my team, my Chicago Bears. Let's just get right into the schedule reaction as week one, we see the Bears on Monday Night Football at Soldier Field to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this game, I will be honest, it definitely has some intrigue for me. The reason this game in particular I feel is very intriguing is because, one, we get to see this Minnesota Vikings team, primetime football, and J.J. McCarthy, especially as we're speaking of right now. That's why I don't want to get a win-off prediction just yet. J.J. McCarthy, as we saying right now, is the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings heading into week one of the Minnesota Vikings season. And the first test of his will be on primetime Monday Night Football against this Bears defense, who I think should be much improved. I think this is probably where we start to get maybe a fill out thing, maybe a fill out process of where I think this Bears team is going to be, because we got a lot of new things early. Whether we're talking about a brand new offensive line that's going to need some continuity with Dahlman, with Thuney, and with Jonah Jackson from The Ohio State University coming into this season. Then we have a brand new head coach and offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson and Declan Doyle. And then we have a brand new defensive coordinator with a guy like a Dennis Allen. So with this Minnesota Vikings team, we know a lot of their big pieces kind of remain the same, whether we're talking about Jefferson, Addison, solid offensive line, the very solid defense with Brian Flores still leading in charge. So we're talking about this Bears team. I think this is a test. I'm not going to say, oh, they should win them, they should lose that. Like I said, that'll be later. But when we're talking about this team entirely, going up against the Minnesota Vikings in week one at home, Soldier Field, this is going to be I think this game in particular, I know we're going to have the preseason, which honestly, I don't know where they're going to go with that. I think that would be something that they probably play starters like probably the second game and then third game rest, like most teams have been doing as of the past couple of years. But this game will be to see where J.J. McCarthy has grown and if the Bears defense can make him look like a first-time starter. I think that is a key for this particular ball game, is can the Bears make J.J. McCarthy look like a first-time starter, especially in a ball game like this, in primetime TV on the road for the Vikings. So what I want to see in this particular ball game, and I know I'm kind of going winded here, this game, I just want to see where the Bears are at this point. I just want to see where the Bears are at this point. As we go to the comments a little bit. Bears Junkie 55 Hall of Fame. Thank you for tuning in. He says it looks rough. Now the Bears have the second or third highest win percentage scheduled in the NFL of this coming year, and I always say that it doesn't mean but only so much when we're talking about what teams are going to be, where the schedules are going to be at. I don't see this as meaning particularly much, but that is something to kind of watch for as this season kind of rolls along. So, game one, Minnesota Vikings, primetime football. Then we're talking week two. We're going to go on the road to take on Ben Johnson's former team, the Detroit Lions, and that is a noon game on a Sunday. Now, I think this particular matchup is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. And this is kind of why I say this. This is going to be an interesting matchup because we know Ben Johnson we know a lot of the staff, whether we're talking about Randall at the wide receiver coaching position, JT Barrett from The Ohio State University, as their quarterback coach, he gathered a good amount of staff from the Detroit Lions. So this game, particularly happening early in the season, I think is going to be one of those games where, number one, are the Lions going to try to come out for revenge? Because the Lions, we know, have a very talented roster. And this is also a game early in the season to where we can kind of see where the Lions are as the Bears franchise. We can kind of see if Ben Johnson has made some little adjustments in his game plan and in his system, especially going up against his former team in week one of the season. So that is going to be key. Where are the Bears going to be, and how are the Lions going to come out and play in this particular ball game where you have a head coach, you have a good amount of your offensive staff, if we're talking about the Bears, that knows the Detroit Lions like the back of their hands because a lot of the staff come from there. This, I think, is going to be a very competitive matchup, just like week one. We know division, and we know how much the Bears have improved. And it's another game to see, just like week one, and I didn't mention this, where Caleb Williams is at as far as his developing in the Ben Johnson offense. This is the game where I think it's really going to be put to a test, especially going up against his former team with the defense that kind of knows some of the nuances of the Ben Johnson system. So that is going to be a very, very interesting contest. And it's crazy that the Bears start off with two games in a division back-to-back to kick off the 2025 season. So I think early in the year, the Bears get tested. The two games in the year, the Bears get tested by their own division. So this is a game where it's another test, and it's going to be a rough one, especially against the Detroit Lions team, who was battered up last year. They could have went to the NFC Championship game, I think, if the injuries did not happen and Jared Goff doesn't play terrible in the playoff game last year. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. Then we have week 3 of the NFL season, where the Bears are going to host the Dallas Cowboys. And shout out to my best friend. She is a Dallas Cowboys fan. But I've got a little bit of my own kind of personal thing with the Bears this year. That's what I'm hoping for. This is a game where we got the Cowboys. They have a brand new head coach and a guy like a Brian Schottenheimer. And I'm interested to see where, from not just a Bears fan standpoint of where the Bears are going to be at this point, this is just me, my NFL thoughts speaking. Where are the Cowboys going to be under a brand new regime, or is it going to be same old Jerry's world, same old with the Cowboys? Because this Cowboys team does have talent. Do not get me wrong when you're talking about Prescott, who can play at MVP levels when healthy. CeeDee Lamb was one of the top 5, top 10 receivers in the league. Michael Parsons off the edge, we know what he can do. They did lose to Marcus Lawrence, which I think is going to be a hurt. But they did lose Zach Martin as well. But I think this offensive line is still solid for the Dallas Cowboys. It's interesting to see what kind of running game are they going to possess, especially with picking up Javonte Williams this offseason. I'm willing to see – I'm really, as a not just a Bears fan at this point, as a football fan, I want to see how the Cowboys are going to fare at this point. So that is kind of going to be one of those things where I'm kind of looking forward to. And this is another game where I think the Bears will be tested because the Cowboys are very talented. And I just want to see where this I'm not going to give a prediction. Like I said, I just want to see where this Bears team is. Shout out to Shari. She says, hopefully the Bears will be better than last year. I mean, we all hope that as Bears fans. We all hope for that one. I'm so tired of the losing for the Bears. I'm really am. But E-Squad says, I got you with a follow. Sub to my youth. I got you. I will do that. But next up, week 4 of the NFL season, the Bears will take on the Las Vegas Raiders in Vegas. This is another 325 kickoff. The week before, it's week 3 is also a 325 kickoff. So the Bears start off the season. Vikings, primetime football. The Lions, we know that is a meaningful game for this Bears staff. Cowboys, 325 kickoff. And then we have the Raiders at a 325 kickoff. This one's going to be very interesting because at this point, we get a little bit to know about where the Raiders are at this point with new head coach Pete Carroll, quarterback Geno Smith. I'm not sure about the Raiders wide receiver room. I'll be honest. Not too exactly sure about it. We know Brock Bowers. He's one of the better tight ends that we have in this league, and he's shown that he can be an elite. But if we're talking about the Bears standpoint, I just want to see, as a Bears unit, how are they going to fare up? Because Pete Carroll is one of the more smarter-minded head coaches that we've seen. He was a candidate for the Bears job, and I think he interviewed, if I'm not mistaken. I think I could be wrong. You guys can correct me, but this is going to be another interesting game. Now, we know the Raiders. Me personally, I think the Raiders are at a point that it's probably going to take them maybe another year or so to kind of get where they want with the things that are on this roster. They still have a lot of holes. I still think they need some. They did address the cornerback position. They did address that. I think their offensive line can use some improvement. Running game room, they did draft Ashton Genty, which I think could help them in their running back room because their running game was non-existent almost at points last season. So this defense, and then the defense is led by Max Crosby, who's one of the top-tier pass rushers that we have in this league. And then it's another test for this Bears offensive line to see if they can contain a Max Crosby who is relentless, who is just pure effort, he has a deep, he's just a nonstop motor. So I'm interested to see how this particular matchup is going to go and how are the Bears going to fare against a team like the Raiders who are on the come up. And I still think they did a little bit of work. So it's just, how is this Bears team going to fare and where will this Bears team stand at this game? That's what I really want to look forward to in that particular matchup. Then we have an early bye week, which I'm not a big fan of the really early in the season bye weeks. I'll be honest. I'm more of bye weeks. I'm always more of a fan, maybe a week 7, a week 8-ish type of bye week. That's where I'm kind of looking at with this Bears team. It's more of a week 8, week 9-ish type of bye week. That's what I wish they had that. I know last season they didn't have their bye week maybe until week 10 or 11, somewhere around the rounds. I think it was week 10 or 11 that the Bears had a bye week last year. This week is early, week 5. Not a big fan of it because you just get nonstop weeks after early bye that you get straight football. I think the bye week last year was after the Jaguars. It was after the Jaguars. It was that London game. I think, the overseas game. Yeah, the bye week last year was after the overseas game against the Jaguars. So early bye week, not a big fan of it, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. But then, let me get out of that actually. Then we got week 6 against the Commanders, and we know what this game was last year to us. Not even going to get into it. Not even going to discuss that BS. But week 6, and it's our second Monday night game of the season, is against the Commanders, and I know a lot of people are going to bring up the damn Hail Mary. Now, what I'm kind of looking for this Commanders team, and I will be honest with you guys at this point right now, I will be honest with my thoughts on this Commanders team. I think the Commanders may have a bit of a fall off from last year. I'm not hoping for it as an NFL fan. I'm not hoping for it. But how much higher can this team get than the NFC Championship game? And what will that do to Jaden Daniels' psyche? And then there's top of that, you got about a 4 to 5 week. You got 4 games because we just had the bye week previous. You got 4 games of the Bears Ben Johnson experiment and the Bears Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson marriage pairing together. And it's kind of like close to mid-season. You got a couple of games to kind of fill out your roster. You got a couple of games on both sides of the ball to fill out the coaching staff, and the coaching staff to kind of get a feel for what the roster possesses in live, real regular season games. So I think this is the start of where the Bears season could possibly go. Because at this point last year was the same thing. This particular game last season damn near crushed the season. Actually, not damn near. It crushed the Bears season in 2024. So this particular game, and for example, or not example, this particular game against the Commanders really is going to tell us where this Bears team is at this point. And depending on if we win or lose this game, I think this is one of the potential game-changing season-changing games for the Bears, especially after what happened last year with a lot of the roster still intact. So this particular game is going to mean a lot towards this Bears team in 2025. I really, really believe that. I think this game is going to have a lot to say about where this Bears team is going to be. But following that game against the Commanders, we have the New Orleans Saints at a noon kickoff at home. And this New Orleans Saints team just came off of the emotional bit of Derek Carr retiring. They just drafted Tyler Shaw out of Louisville, I believe. Then on top of that, you have Spencer Rattler. And I'm not sure where they're going to be at quarterback at this point. Like I've said this with the Saints multiple times in multiple different videos. This is a team that kind of needs to rebuild. This is a team with a lot of salary cap hell that kind of needs to rebuild. Now, they do have a lot of talent when we're talking about Cam Jordan, when we're talking about Demario Davis. That defense is getting a little bit old. They did trade Marshawn Lattimore after the year. This defense is getting a little bit old. I'll just be 100% honest. Defense is getting a little bit old. Then you have my boy Chris Olave from the Ohio State University. Is he going to stay healthy? I think that is going to be a big key and where this New Orleans Saints team is going to go. And this is another week where I think if the Bears are clicking on all cylinders, this can also be a carry game. And what I mean by carry game is depending on what happens in Washington and the Commanders the week before, this could be a game that could carry over if things go bad, or this could be a game that kind of can spark momentum if things go well with Caleb Williams and his offense. This is a particular game, and this is starting to get us to the mid-stretch of the season to where we think we should know where the Bears are at this point of the season. And then it's at home. It's a noon kickoff. So I think this particular matchup is one thing we should try to kind of see where the Bears are at this point. I really believe that about this particular matchup. The Saints you have a lot of young players. They have a lot of, especially on offense at Kamara as well. They did lose Taysom Hill. So I'm interested to see where this Saints team is going to be at this point against the Bears going into week 7 of the Bears season. Then we have, I think, one of the toughest tests in the NFL, or out of our schedule, as we have the Ravens on the road at M&T Bank Stadium in week 8. And this is going to be, I will be honest, this is going to be a tough football game because the Ravens are a very good football team led by Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. This is going to be a test of where the Bears' interior is because the Ravens love to run the football. This is going to be a test of how good really is the Bears' run defense because we've seen last year that run defense was bad. The Bears got carved a lot in the ground game. This is going to be a test, I think, a top-tier test of where this Bears defense is as far as defending the run. Because a lot of what the Ravens do is based on how well they can run the football. And this game in particular, and we know this Ravens defense led by our former guy, Roschon Smith, is one of the better defenses, along with Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey as well, Madubuike inside. This game is going to really be a test for this entire Bears team. And I'm not going to say now, but I definitely would not be shocked if we lose this game. I think the Ravens are one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. Let's just be honest. The Ravens are a top 5 team. Whether we're talking about Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, whether we're talking about a team like the Lions that could possibly be top 5, I think the Ravens are definitely a top 5 football team, in my opinion. Ravens are top 5. This is going to be a very tough contest for the Bears. Very, very tough. And like I said, I'm not going to make my win loss prediction now. I would not be shocked if the Bears lose this game. Just wouldn't. The Ravens are an excellent football team, and I would take no shame if we lost this game. But if we win this game, this will be a big step in this team's development and where they could go in 2025. They pull out the win in this, that is going to mean a lot confidentially for this Bears football team heading in the rest of this season. If they win this game, it's going to give them a big boost of confidence that they can go up there, compete, and hang with one of the better teams that we have in the NFL. Now, shout out to my homeboy, Corey. This defensive line is going to be different this year. Let's just hope it's better with all the new pieces. I definitely agree. I hope it's better, but this Ravens game in particular that I'm covering or talking about, this is going to be a tough test to where I think we get to get a little bit of things of where it is. Shout out to Joseph D'Agostino. We struggle against running quarterbacks, which we typically have, whether we were talking about Kyler Murray last year, and I forgot who else did we play that ran a football a lot as a quarterback last year? It kind of is off the edge of my damn brain. Jordan Love, we struggle with him running a little bit. We struggle with running. We did struggle with running quarterbacks over this Mike Eberflus tenure. We have had some issues with running quarterbacks. So I'm interested to see how Dennis Allen's going to implement his defense. And like I said, this will be a tough test to really find out where we are at this point against the Ravens team. So this is going to be a tough test. This next week is going to be another tough test against another strong offensive unit where we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals on the road yet again. So, and they're going to place Joe Burrow and an MVP candidate, 2 MVP possible candidates in Chase, which is the Triple Crown winner. And then we're talking about a guy like a Joe Burrow who can carve up any defense in the league. My thing with this Bengals team is how the Bears going to attack this defense, which should be improved, but I still think they have a few pieces they need to get. I think this defense for the Bengals should be improved, but I'm interested to see how the Bears are going to defend one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL when we're talking about Joe Burrow. And I'm pretty sure Jaylon Johnson is probably going to get the Jamar Chase assignment. I will be interested to see how that goes. So, and let's see. Shout out to Trade Talk Sports Chicago. He says, I'm going to be honest. I would be surprised if we beat the Ravens. Trust me, I will be surprised too if we beat the Ravens. But if this happens, it's going to change the season. Then shout out to Joseph D'Agostino. He says, hopefully Trey Hendrickson revenge game. He won't play on his current contract. Now, I did just see that today, so I might make a short about that. But that is going to be interesting. That ties into this Bengals game. If Trey Hendrickson does not play and he's not there for the Bengals, that is going to mean a ton of this Bengals defense, because if the defense that was bad along in 2024, Trey Hendrickson was the brightest spot on a poorest defense. Trey Hendrickson was the absolute brightest spot on a poorest Bengals defense last year. So they made some improvements. I know they have, God damn it, Cam Brent. I think something Brent. I'm so bad with the name right now, but I know they have Cam Taylor Brent on the outside that is a very good corner. I don't know why his name slipped my brain, but he's a good corner on the outside, and I'm interested to see how these Bears weapons are going to get up against. They hired the defensive coordinator from Notre Dame. Don't remember his name, but I know they hired him from Notre Dame, which lost to my Ohio State Breakfast in the national championship game. So that is going to be a very tough game, I think, for the Bears defensively to try to defend Zach Taylor and this Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, who they both re-signed both, and this Bengals offense. So that is going to be an interesting thought. Next, we are going to have the New York Giants at home. And the New York Giants, I still possibly, the New York Giants, I'll be honest, I still don't think this is a very good football team. But it depends on who's their quarterback at this point of the year. I'll be honest, I don't think it will be Jackson Dart, especially with them signing both Winston and Wilson. I don't think Jackson Dart will play this year. So as Bears fans, don't expect to see Jackson Dart unless something dramatic happens. It's probably going to be Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. They have a solid running game with Tracy. We know what Malik Neighbors can do. I'm still a little bit iffy somewhat on this defense, even though they have Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence up front. And that's going to be another test for this newly made offensive line, is how they're going to block those two. I'll be honest, I still don't think Braxton Jones is the answer at left tackle, but that's neither here nor there. But this Giants game, at least from what we stand right now, is a very winnable football game. It is a game which I think this will be a little bit telling of where the Bears are, because I personally don't think the Giants will be a very good football team. They'll be kind of below pack, middle pack, with them still needing some questions to be answered. And we see how Russell played later in the season. Jameis Winston is one of those quarterbacks that's kind of like iffy or spotty. So with the Giants, I'm kind of iffy on that. Shout out to Trey Sports Chicago. He says, say I'm crazy, but I think we could beat that defense, and I think we could beat them to me. I think you're talking about the Bengals. I think our offense outmatches their defense. I kind of agree with that. Their defense is still kind of suspect to me when we're talking about the Bengals. So I do agree there. But the Giants, I still think and the Giants thing is, could Dable be fired by then? Depends on how their quarterback play is and how this team is going. Could we see a point where by this point in the season, this is the mid part, could this be a game where Brian Dable could be possibly fired at this point? Or could the Giants be kind of going a little bit above or meeting somewhat of the expectations as a football team? That would be I think that was going to be, and then they actually drafted Bill Carter too, so that's another thing along this defensive front that you're going to have to block with Burns, Lawrence, and Carter. It's going to be another test for this offensive line. I will say that. It's going to be another test. Trey Talk Sports, he says, I'm going to be honest, if we don't win this game, this will be very embarrassing, and that will be a disgrace to the city of Chicago, point blank. I don't know about a disgrace. Like I said, I won't do my win-loss prediction now, but I will say this. The Bears have a tendency to lose games they have no business losing. That's all I'm going to say. Even in good years, bad years, we have games where we have no business losing. Can we remember the the Broncos in 2023? Can we remember the Browns in 2023? Could we remember the Patriots, the way we lost to them last year? Could we remember the Commanders game? That happened. The Bears have the tendency to lose games where they have no business losing, and then they win games that we have no business winning, i.e. the last game of the year against the Packers. Honestly, we ain't had no business winning that damn game. The beginning game of last year, we had no business winning that game either. When the offense stunk up the joint, we had no business winning that. So I'll just say that. The Bears lose games that they have no business losing. The Bears win games that they have no business winning. So I'm going to just leave it at that. I just leave that there. Then we go back and we play Minnesota at week 11. I think this is the point by then where we kind of know where J.J. McCarthy is. This is a point where we get Division 4 second time. Things are always going to be different when the division games. So, and then we have the Vikings at that point. The Vikings at this point, I think we get to see where, like I said, where the offensively, where they're at this point, where I think you're starting to get that fill-out process, and this with the Bears too, the fill-out process is kind of over with. This is the meat of the season where you start to get the rivalry games, where you start to get the later games, where you start to get later on in the season. This is the game where I think wherever cylinders should be clicking, wherever cylinders should be there, should be had. So I'll just say this, and he's talking, shout out to Trey Sports for tuning in. He says, I agree. He's talking about the way I say the Bears should lose games they shouldn't be losing, win games they should be winning. Bears done that their whole damn existence as a franchise and my whole entire life at this point. But nonetheless, the Bears have another tough test as they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know. Like I said, this is the point where I don't know if it's going to be my boy Will Howard, national champion of the Ohio State University, is going to be raising Rudolph, or is Aaron Rodgers finally going to make up his goddamn mind and sign a damn contract? We'll still wait to be seen where that's going to go. But we know one thing that the Steelers have is an elite defense, a top-tier defense, led by T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward from the Ohio State University, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., who's really starting to develop into a very good corner in this league, Alex Highsmith. I think they're still a little bit offensive line. We'll see how they're going to fare out. Running game, we'll see how that's going to pair with Najee Harris departing. Traded George Pickens, which it was a surprise and then it was not. So the Steelers, I can't really do too much on the Steelers right now because we still have a lot of questions to be answered on them. And the Bears' perspective, this is another test on how this offense can perform against one of the better defenses led by my personal favorite head coach. Crazy. I don't care if you guys disagree or agree. My favorite head coach in the NFL, and that's Mike Tomlin. Just know this. Steelers teams, no matter what, they always overachieve. No matter what the quarterback play looks like, they're always overachieve. Shout out to Trey Talk Sports. He says, I could see this being a loss. He's talking about the Vikings. I think J.J. McCarthy could be in the rhythm, but should be a fun game. Caleb versus J.J. and Kevin O'Connell, who is the Vikings head coach, versus Ben Johnson. I think that is another game. That previous game could be one. But I personally, with this Steelers matchup, I worry a little bit because of how they can bring pressure and how they can attack from the defensive line and linebacker perspective with Patrick Queen. I'm interested to see how this Bears and Ben Johnson offense is going to fare against the Steelers defense who can come after you. So this is going to be another tough test for the Bears. Playoff team last year, they had a couple of them. But the next week, Black Friday, the Bears are traveling to take on the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be another test. The Bears have a lot of them this year. Like I said, they have a tough schedule. And this is another nationally televised game. And we know the Bears have a history of stinking up the damn joint on national television. And I'm afraid that could be in this game. Depends on where we're at. This is week 12, middle meat of the season. This is where the part of the season where you start to get your contenders from the pretenders. So where are the Bears going to be at this point as a football team against the defending Super Bowl champions, which I think this is a game where the Bears should come out and just come out blazing, especially attacking the defending champions. We know what they have in Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Defensively, we know what they have in Jalen Carter, who the Bears passed up on, but I'm not going to put too much on that because we got Darnell Wright, which we needed help with. They got Zach Bond, linebacker, Cooper DeJean, and Quinion Mitchell, corners who developed better later in the season. They traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They drafted Jaheed Campbell from Alabama. So this game in particular is going to be a tough one. I really feel that this game is going to be tough. And this is another game, kind of like Baltimore, that could be a confidence boost for this football team. You go on the road and you defeat the reigning Super Bowl champions, especially if the Eagles are going to have a season like we kind of expect them to have. This is a confidence boost game. Very much so, confidence boost game. Shout out to Trey Talk. He says, we should beat the Steelers, especially if Aaron Rodgers is there. If he's there, I want us to get back from every time he beat us. I mean, what is a Bears fan who don't want that? Who doesn't want that? As a Bears fan, I mean, who doesn't want that? But Philly was the next game, and then we're going to go. And we have our first game of the year on the road to take on those damn Green Bay Packers. I want this game. As a Bears fan, I don't give a damn. I don't care where we are. And I don't care what type of season we're having. I want this game on the road. I want this game. And I'll get to this right quick. He says, I'm going to be honest, Will. I'm going to be real honest. I could see us getting blown out by the Eagles. The Eagles are too stacked. On paper, I don't see a blowout. We can possibly lose that game. But either way it goes, I want this game against Green Bay. I don't care where we act. I want it. As a fan, I want this game on the road to keep Caleb Williams undefeated at that bitch-ass Lambeau Field. I don't care. That's my fan speaking. I don't care. I want this game. I want it. Looking forward to it too. Cold, December 7th, Lambeau Field. I want it. Now, Packers, on the other hand, just to talk about them a little bit, receiver position, I still think it leaves a bit to be desired, even though they drafted Matthew Golden. Christian Watson is probably going to miss a good portion of the 2025 season when he tore his ACL in the last game against us. This may be a game where he might be back for, but they do have a very strong running game in Josh Jacobs. Defensively, they start to play better down the stretch, but is Jair Alexander still going to be with the team at this point? He's been talked about in a lot of trade rumors this offseason. So I'm interested to see if he's going to still be with the Packers at this point. Signs are pointing towards he's not, but I'm interested to see where he's going to be anyway. So, Naima Basul, shout out to you. You said schedule's tough this season, and you are absolutely right. We have a tough schedule, but it's going to tell a lot about where this team is possibly going to be in 2025. So we shall see, but I want this game right here. And then we're going to take up against the Cleveland Browns at home. The Cleveland Browns are a very, very interesting football team coming in at 2025. Quarterback position, we don't know whether it's going to be Shador. We don't know when Dylan Gabriel. We don't know if it's going to be Flacco. We don't know if it's going to be Pickett. This team running game, I still need some questions. Even though they got my guy Quinn Shotjunkins, national champion, the Ohio State University. Receiver position, Jerry Jeudy. Outside of Jerry Jeudy, kind of leaves a lot to be wanted. Defensively, can they get back into where they were in 2023? as far as being a good defensive unit with Garrett and my boy Denzel Ward from The Ohio State University. I really want to see where they at as a defensive unit. So I'm really interested to see like where this team is going to be defensively at this point of the year. Are they going to get a good quarterback play? And where are the Bears going to be? Where's Caleb Williams at this point? Where are they on as a defense at this point? Because this is like I said, this is the meat of the season to where we can win and lose a playoff spot with these late games down the stretch. So this is going to be one of those games where on paper we don't see the Browns as really contenders, but the Browns are a team that can get anybody. So we shall see about that. And then the very next week, those damn Green Bay Packers, Saturday, December 20th. I want this game too. We haven't beat the Packers at home since 2018. Think about that. We haven't beat the Packers at home since 2018. So, like I said in this game, it's a late of the year. We're going to see where the Packers are. We're going to see where this team is and where the Bears are. But I don't care. We want this game. Especially at the crib. Oh, I want this game. Don't care. Want this game. So, at this point, I want this game. So, like I said, next, that's the Packers. Then, on top of that, we are on the road to take on those San Francisco 49ers. 49ers have our team that has some changes this offseason. They lost Hufanga. They lost Deebo Samuel in the trade. We're interested to see where Christian McCaffrey is going to be. Is Brock Purdy going to live up to being an elite quarterback at this point? This is another test to – I think the 49ers are a team that's going to be in that playoff contention window, especially in the NFC West, where I don't think the Seahawks – well, the Seahawks could be better. I don't think the Cardinals are there. And they're in the division with the Rams, who I think is going to be there. This is an interesting game because late in the season, I think both of these teams are going to be in the playoff window. So this is going to be, I think, a very important football game on Sunday Night Football for each of these two football teams. Barring health, of course. But if we're looking at this on paper, I think Bears and 49ers is going to be a very interesting game because I think both of these football teams will be in a playoff hunt. So I think this game is going to have a lot of meaning towards where each team is going to finish. And then lastly but not least, we have the Detroit Lions to finish our season at home. Whether it's January 6th, 3rd, or 4th, but we have the Lions at home. I still think this is a game where it determines some playoff seeding. It determines playoff positioning. It determines who's in and out. So at this point, the Bears, I really want to see if they're going to be clicking or are they going to be out of it. And if they're going to be out of it, this is a team that has to do a lot of thinking as an organization to things really it. Because I'll just make this point right now. If the Bears are not a playoff team or a contending playoff team in 2025, so like I have to say that, like, I put this out here, and I'm looking dead at the camera. If the 2025-26 Chicago Bears are not contending for a playoff spot, things in upper management must change. There's no way in hell that this Bears football team in 2025 should not be in the playoff hunt. And this is not just from a fan's perspective. This is from somebody who loves the game of football and watches all the football that he can watch. And looking at this football team on paper, for putting my analyst hat on, taking off my fan hat, this team should be in playoff contention, if not challenging for the division crown. Sounds crazy, but Caleb Williams developing in year 2. I think he will get better. Offensive line, you made massive changes to it. Defensive line, you made some changes. Coaching staff, you had a complete overhaul. And I think on paper, of course, things have to play out on this field. But I don't think this Bears team should not be contending for the playoffs. I don't think they should be outside the playoffs. Especially at week 17 and it's week 18 now in the season. They should be contending to the last breath for a playoff spot. I'm not going to give my thoughts on the entire NFL. Like I said, that video is probably going to come later next week or sometime next week. But I just don't think this Bears team, as we stand right now, should not be playing for a contending playoff spot. But that's my schedule review. I'm not doing win-loss. That is going to probably come, like I said, at training camp of 2025. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know when the day is. They'll probably say that at some point. Just know, this Bears team better not be outside of the playoffs looking in come late season. I'll just leave the stream with that. And thank you guys for tuning in, watching this episode of Chicago Bears Weekly. This is a bit of a last-minute live stream. I know. I kind of wish I would have said this earlier in the week, but I will be honest, I wasn't sure of how I was going to do something like this and review the Chicago Bears schedule coming up. But I'm glad you guys tuned in. You can always go and watch this back if you didn't watch this. But I am APW Sports signing out. Thank you for tuning in to episode 6 of Chicago Bears Weekly. And I've got some more videos and stuff coming out really soon. Not only just wrestling, but NFL as well. I know another thing I'll touch on before I leave this. I know I was supposed to get a video out about the whole Shedeur Sanders fall off, but it just seems like left and right we're getting more information about that. Because it's like, okay, I got the video prepared, I want to do it, and then bam, more stuff comes out. So I don't want it to be a video where it's kind of outdated already. I might do it later at some point next week when I have my recording session day, probably Sunday, Monday. But nonetheless, that is my review of the 2025 Bears schedule. Thank you for tuning in to this live stream. I said I will be probably live streaming a bit more than what I have in the past on this channel. So I'll see you guys. See you guys soon. I got more videos scheduled to come out during this coming week. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Click the like button if you haven't already. Click the subscribe button. That always helps to help continue this channel to grow. Notification bell so you will not miss anything. And I am APW Sports signing out. You guys have a great and excellent rest of your day. I'll see you soon.